Good morning and welcome to this eHealth baselining meeting. My name is Leonie Schäfer. I'm from DFN in Germany and I welcome you on behalf of the organizing team of this meeting. My co-organizers are Marie Reale from GÉANT, who initially came up with the idea of organizing such an event, Marina Di Giorgi from GÉANT Partner Relations, and since this is a workshop jointly organized with eHealth-related, the project of the Eastern European Partnership countries, we have NRENs as fourth member of the team. So we are very pleased and a bit overwhelmed by the record number of registrations for this workshop. We originally expected about 30-40 participants to join this baselining meeting. Now we have reached the magic number of 102 registered attendees. So right now I think we are about 30, so probably 42, probably more to come.
Good morning.
But this number is already astonishing. I guess it's because the reason is it's an online meeting, not face-to-face, but well, it's very promising. But with the support of the GÉANT Partner Relations team and GÉANT's GCC in form of Claudio Locchio, I've already seen. Good morning, Claudio. We hope to be able to cope with that. As a first step, we have extended the number of breakout sessions in the afternoon. The only thing we will not do is to do a roundtable of introductions, as we would normally do as part of a workshop. Well, I guess you understand why. If there's still time, the breakout session moderators might take this up in the afternoon. Now about the objectives of the eHealth baselining meeting. There is already a lot of work done in eHealth. There's an eHealth project, eHealth Live, focusing on eHealth. We will hear later about that, and several NRENs supporting eHealth projects with a variety of services. We will get a quick overview in our lightning talk session. What we would like to know is the current status and how are NRENs currently supporting eHealth projects, and most importantly, where are the gaps? Are there special requirements in networking, trust and identity, or cybersecurity which are not covered yet? Is there a need for a new type of service which NRENs should offer? Are there special requirements in view of clouds? And how about eHealth policy? So we do not want to reinvent the wheel. I'm sure eHealth Live and the NRENs dealing with eHealth cover already a lot of topics. But I'm also sure, and also judging by your interest in this meeting, that there's still gaps and possibly a demand for a new set of services which GÉANT and the NRENs could provide. So now about this day. In the morning, in our first session, we will have two presentations to set the scene, followed by lightning talks, which will give an overview about the activities of NRENs and eHealth worldwide. So we have presentations not only from Europe, but also from South America, Australia, and Japan. In the morning, we'll conclude with a panel at which we will try in interaction with our audience, you, to crystallize out the main challenges in eHealth relevant for the NRENs. In the afternoon, we have scheduled breakout sessions, 8 in parallel, in which we aim to get into discussion with you. You will be placed randomly in one of the sessions, which one does not really make a difference, since all breakout sessions will cover the same set of questions. So that's for the introduction. I would like to ask our presenters to really keep an eye on the time, because we have a tough schedule and we don't want to overrun. So we will notify you if you're close to the end of your slot. And before we start, I would like to ask you if possible to turn on your video a bit, because it's much more motivating for presenters if there are some faces to look at while talking. But now let's start with a quick Mentimeter. Laura, would you take over?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
All good.
Yes, great. Okay, new headset, first time I'm trying it. So I'm going to share my screen, and on the screen in Zoom, you will see the results of the Mentimeter. But what I would like everybody to do, please, would be to actually, preferably if you have a smartphone, to use your smartphone and go to Mentimeter. You can go to menti.com and use this code to get into our Mentimeter. If you don't have a smartphone handy and you need to do it on your laptop, then please do not close the Zoom. When you are in there, I think there's like a little love heart you click to show that you've entered, and then we should see the numbers popping up on the screen here. I don't see any sign of anybody being in.
I'm in, Laura.
See, now I see the numbers. Yes, so this was the first question. Thank you for already answering. When you hear eHealth, you think, just put in whatever words come to mind. Digital health research, computers, sensors, EHRS. I don't know what that means. Maybe later in the discussion part of the program, somebody can explain if that's relevant later to the discussion as well. Electronic patient record, policy, privacy, expertise, telemedicine, data sharing, redundant connection, storage. Okay, we've got quite a lot of different things coming in. That's great. I think there's some people's, the numbers here just show how many people have answered the question. So there's a lot of people in the call and only 26 have given input. So the rest of you, if you want to please add something here, that would be great. And then we'll move on. But this is already a good word cloud. So I think perhaps we'll just move on because this is just a quick warm-up exercise in a way. Is your NREN already working on eHealth? So if you're in an NREN, hopefully you know the answer. If you're from outside the NREN itself, maybe you know whether or not your national NREN is or is not already working in this area. Okay, I'll give one more moment. Yeah, anybody else to answer? I think we had 26 people in the first answer, 25 this time. So if that 26th person wants to put their input, yeah, great. Oh, more people, brilliant. Okay. Well, at the moment, it looks like no, not yet is in the winning position in terms of the sort of discrete number. But if you add together the yeses in the different categories, actually, it's pretty good. So let's move on to the next question. What does your NREN offer to support eHealth? Looks like someone's been doing some testing here. In this one, you can, you should be able to put in a few words and they should scroll up and we'll see everybody's going up and down. So pilot support, HPC resources, storage, networking facilities, sensitive data storage collaboration, HPC, storage network, security. So network and storage, software development, yeah, trust and identity, T&I that is, dedicated services, cloud services, computing infrastructure, applications development, virtual machines, VMs, living lab, hospital SOC, that's another acronym I don't know. So again, maybe somebody later can explain what that is if that's relevant. But there's a poor uptake of services, somebody has written. Basic connectivity to university hospitals, roaming. Okay, so there's quite a diverse set of services that are already being offered, but quite different mixture from different people coming in. All right, let's move on. What useful services are currently missing from the portfolios, service portfolios of the NRENs or GÉANT? I don't know if REW is an acronym for a missing service or whether that was a test by somebody, but please go ahead and give your inputs here. Unless no answers means that there are no missing services. Sensitive data services. Electronic lab notebooks. Health service catalogue. Okay. Thank you for not knowing. It's also good to know that people don't know what's missing. More cloud services and tailored services for users. Medical certified data storage, sensor and gateway connectivity, and data storage visualization. Focus on eHealth. I'm not sure if the accent on the E is significant or not. Again, if that's something that needs to be explained in the discussion later, that would be good to hear about. If not, that's okay. FAIR support. I do know what that acronym is, but I'm not sure I'll say it correctly. So again, maybe somebody who has that to hand later can properly explain what that is. Security, collaboration on network infrastructure, common policies. Great, thank you for all of these inputs. I'll just give a moment more in case anybody else wants to enter anything more. And then otherwise, linking clinical and research activities. Okay, great. Yeah, don't know, should we ask the hospitals and medical institutions themselves? Yes, okay, good question. All right, thank you very much. So now it's time for session 1. Thank you for those inputs.
Great, thank you very much for your contribution. Now we continue with session 1, and I will pass over to Mario to introduce the presenters. I have just one comment, please. If you have questions, please write your question in the chat, and Mario will take them up later after the presentations and pass them on to the presenters. Okay, Mario, it's your turn.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. I'm glad to introduce our distinguished speakers. The first talk will be given by Jonathan Tedds, who is currently coordinating the Medvc computing platform, and it will today present the Medvc project, giving us an overview of the whole life cluster of Medvc. So I'm very glad to introduce you to Jonathan, who is managing the computing platform of Medvc, as I mentioned, and today he will present us the complete Medvc project. So I would just pass over the floor to Jonathan, please. So is Jonathan connected? If, well, I don't see any reaction. Jonathan, are you there? Okay. So I'll try to check out what's going on. Well, if Jonathan is not there, I would maybe try to switch the order of the speakers. So Professor Shimizu, if you're, I've seen you are connected, so thank you for.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you for joining us, and you'll have the honor to be the first speaker today. So Professor Shimizu is a surgeon, currently being Vice President of the Kyushu University and Chairman and Professor of the Department of International Medical Department, as well as Director of the Telemedicine Development Center of Asia. Since 2002, he has facilitated a comprehensive telemedicine project, which has widely spread in various Asia Pacific regions and is expanding globally. Is a well-known professor in our community, so we're really glad to have him here. He has been invited to more than he has invited more than 500 young doctors and technical staff from all over the world for medical and engineering training as the director of Overseas Exchange Center. And he organized the medical working group of the Asia Pacific Advanced Network, APAN, in 2005 and started Asia Telemedicine Symposium in 2007. So without further ado, Professor Shimizu, thank you for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm glad to be with you all. Good morning, people in Europe. So, as introduced, I myself is a surgeon. As shown, I'm working in an operating theater, shown in the slide like this. So, let me start anyway. So I wonder if you've heard the word keyhole operation. So the left picture shows the conventional open surgery, which is a kind of old one. But these days, the operation shown on the right side is getting more and more popular. Because we can, to do the same operation, we can only make a small wound on the abdomen by using the endoscopy. So this kind of surgery started already 30 years ago. And when it started, it was really a revolution for us surgeons. So it's a totally different kind of surgery. The many doctors wanted to learn this new surgery. So of course there are meetings and the recorded videos and something like that, but the best way we can learn the real surgery is to visit the hospital with a specialist working. But to visit this hospital, it's a time consuming and we have to pay money for the trip. And even if we can go there, only the limited number of people and only we can get a few occasions during the busy working hours. And it is especially true when we want to go to abroad. So that's why we thought the teleconference or live demonstration of surgery might be a good option because it was a lucky coincidence that the internet became available 1990s. So we tried to use this to start the teleconference or live demonstration. But the fact was that the thing we got was very, very poor images. So we couldn't understand the right anatomy of the surgery, and transmitted images often got sluggish. So we thought, oh, we cannot use the internet for this kind of purposes at that time. But on the other hand, there was a satellite available. So we used it, and it could give us a considerably satisfactory image quality. But as you know, this is very, very expensive. So we couldn't use this on a daily basis, only in a very limited occasions with a very rich conferences or something like that. So we didn't know what to do. We just stood up for about a decade. But situation dramatically changed in 2002. Around 10 years later, we started this kind of activity. And in 2002, I hope you remember, but Korea and Japan co-hosted the World Cup soccer game for the first time in history that the two countries hosted the FIFA together. So the lucky thing for us is these two countries were connected with the big internet. That was the bandwidth was 2 giga. So at that time, it was the extraordinary big internet for us, around 1,000 times more than it used to be. So it was the network revolution. And the lucky thing, one more lucky thing for us is our university is in the city of Fukuoka. So that's why our university had to play a major role and have to be a hub in this big project. And one big advantage is that we developed a very cheap and friendly system. We didn't have to purchase a satellite or very costly special equipment like on the right side, but we could only use the video camera and the computer. And the software called DVTS, which stands for Digital Video Transport System, was free software which transmit the digital video signal to the internet protocol. And although it required the stable as much as 30 megabps, it was not the big problem because we worked with the REN people, APAN or SciNet or something like that. And because this system was cheap enough and user-friendly, it became a very good tool for developing this kind of activity around Asia, where there are many developing countries. And this is the very first demonstration of the surgery when we did the next year of the network establishment. As you can see here, the left side is our meeting room, old meeting room, where we set up 3 screens. And on the right side, this is the National Cancer Center, Korea. And we set up 3 screens, and we could see the new endoscopic surgery, keyhole operation from the very beginning to the end. And on the left screen, we can see the operating theater to know how the surgeons move their hand or what kind of new instrument they use and something like that. And we could talk during watching this operation with the Korean friends. And please take a look at the Korean side. He just sat down on his desk with just a small computer and the 2 screens, with the top one to see the operating theater, and the bottom one is to see the surgery. And the great thing is the quality quality in Korea was exactly the same quality of the one in the operating theater in our university in Japan. But the one technical challenge to have a successful teleconference is that the quality of the transmitting image is by far, high resolution image. And also, we often use the moving images like a surgery. So it consists of 30 frames per second. So those are the technical key to make it successful. So this, because this was a very epoch-making event, many TVs and newspaper came to us. So just to take a look how it was held. So this is a surgery view, and this is the operating theater view. And the right side is Korean friends. After we made a successful program between Korea and Japan, we expanded it around Asia with the engineering partner working in the Asia Pacific Academic Network, APAN. And because we worked as a secretariat of medical working group in APAN, we could easily use the many advanced research and education network across Asia. So let me bring you one more example of the gastric cancer. In Japan or Korea, recently we can make a diagnosis of the gastric cancer at a very early stage. So they could be treated only with the endoscopy, and the patient can get the early recovery with the less cost and back to work early. But in other parts of Asia, these cancers only can be diagnosed at the very advanced stage. So they need the operation, but even with the operation, so they have to be admitted, and even with the operation, they frequently have a recurrence, and many people still die. So the gastric cancer is still the deadly disease in many Asian countries. So that's why the early detection of the gastric cancer is essential to save the lives of many patients. So this is why we started the China-Japan Early Gastric Cancer Teleconference since 2007, connecting our city, Tokyo, Shanghai, and Beijing, because the continuous education is quite important. So the Chinese people mainly show us the difficult cases, and we give them professional comments and something like that. And because China has a big population, if we can raise the 1%, the diagnostic rate of the early gastric cancer only by 1%, we could save many patients there. So let me show you the video like this. So we do like this. But the difference is we show this kind of very high resolution slide, and we share the arrows to point at the exact location we are discussing. And also, this is the pathology, but we can magnify, we can move, just like we are all in the same room to have a meeting. And because this was, again, the very successful program, we expanded to across Asia, connecting many countries like India, Taiwan, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Korea, Hong Kong, or something like that. And because the evening here in Asia is the early morning in Europe, we sometimes invite European countries like Germany here in the slide. And because this program was very good, this was supported now by the Asian Pacific Society of Digestive Endoscopy, a big one. And let me continue to talk about the gastric cancer. And this world map shows the mortality of the gastric cancer, and dark brown shows the high incidence of mortality. And you see, as you see here, the Asia is, of course, has a high mortality rate of the gastric cancer, but you can see the Latin America, they have also a high mortality rate, and also Russia and Central Asia is another area of the gastric cancer programs. So that's why we again expanded our activity all the way to Latin America, the very opposite part of Earth, starting 2013, connecting Bolivia, Costa Rica, Colombia, Mexico, Chile, and something like that. And the thing is, coincidence or happy surprise is that when we started the activity with Latin America, 2009, the transmitted image was very poor. So we didn't have a frequent connection, only a few times. But around when the Brazil hosted the FIFA World Cup 2014, internet became suddenly very good, much better. So that's why we could have a satisfactory quality of transmission. So the many doctors can enjoy this kind of conference with a very high quality. And then the same thing happened 4 years later when Russia hosted the World Cup soccer game, and we started the connection to the from the west part of big country with the central part in blue and the very far east part of the Russia. And we did it 10 times continuously already. So after we started the this kind of telemedicine activity in 2002, we expanded this year by year, and now we are collaborating with over 1,000 institutions in 75 countries, and we organized over 1,000 programs, like I explained to you. So, do you think everything okay now? I don't think so, because this figure shows the number of the membership in Japan. So the Surgery Society or Endoscopic Society has many members, but how many people in Telemedicine Society? Just 400. So still a very small community. Why? I think I raised two reasons here. One is the doctors are not familiar with the telemedicine yet, and they still think, oh, it's just a bad quality, or they may require a high cost. And on the other hand, hospital engineers working in the hospital, they are busy with the electric recording system or internet management. So the telemedicine is not their main job. And of course, they don't have time to learn the new telemedicine technology and something like that. So they are totally different kind of people. Even in the same hospital, they often don't know each other. They seldom work together. That's the one reason. And the second reason, maybe the university around the world should have a very advanced condition via research and education network, and so the good technical environment. But when we talk about the hospital, that depends. So some hospital may be good, but some hospital may not good in network system. Even they may not have an engineer to support the activity. So the different conditions, hospital by hospital, and they often, get into a very unsatisfactory conditions, transmitted quality and something. So I propose that there are three keys for the success. One is access, second is needs, and the third is skill. Access means the internet. Needs is the doctor's needs, medical staff's needs, and the skill is the engineer's skill. So of course, the GÉANT can provide us a very good internet, and we need the champion doctors to lead the program and find the needs in each country. And we need a training for the hospital engineers. And important thing is engineers and medical staff have to collaborate, have to work together in good harmony. So this slide shows the changes in system. The first 10 years, the DBTS was the only solution which could satisfy us medical people. But after that, the technology changed a lot, and now we are facing the second big change due to the coronavirus and the lot of requirement of the Zoom, just as we are using today. So because the technology changes so rapidly, we organize on-the-job training, inviting many hospital engineers across Asia in every APA meeting twice a year from Korea, and when we had a meeting in Korea, Singapore, and New Zealand, every APA. And also to foster the leaders in each country, we invite the selected doctors to our center in Kyushu University, and we give them a special training, and we take them to the operating theater or endoscopic room to give them a specialized training for the telemedicine. And one more thing we cannot forget is to be a matchmaker between doctor and engineer. So this is the first time we made a domestic workshop in Indonesia in 2016 where we invited the doctors and engineers from all across Indonesia and had a very good discussion, sharing the presentation, current information, program, and talk about some solutions. And now we have organized a similar workshop in many countries across Asia. So I'm proud that the telemedicine project can contribute to the sustainable development goals, especially number 3, good health and well-being, and number 4, quality education. So I really appreciate to the engineering people for our great support and let us work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Shimizu, for your nice and interesting presentation. I would like to check if there are questions for you in our chat. Let me check for the moment. Right. Well, if any one of the attendees is questions, please please go ahead. We have probably we will have more time than expected given this unexpected incident.
I have a question. Sorry, my virtual background doesn't show my hand being up very easily. Frankie Stevens asking a question here. So my question was around the statement about the fact that engagement in telemedicine by health individuals, that's been a challenge. And I was just wondering, I know it's difficult to find silver linings or positives out of COVID, but have you noticed that has changed much due to the pandemic, that actually that has been quite a driving factor with health medicals actually pushing towards telemedicine and getting more on board with that?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. And first, before answering your questions, please note that our telemedicine is the remote medical education. That's an educational telemedicine. So the other part, there is a consultation telemedicine, like between doctors and the patient. So our activity is mainly doctors to doctors, that kind of activity. So as an answer to your question, yes, we now accept much more requests from the medical people or the staff working in the hospital, because they cannot visit other hospitals, they cannot go or any other places, not only domestically but also internationally. So the demands are so huge. So that actually our engineering staff are so tired to finish up everything. Yeah. So that's our current situation. So
Thank you, Professor. Any other question from the audience? Let me check if there are raising hands or in the chat.
There is one from the chat. If it is used also on daily basis or just for events. But I think that the answer was already done. So.
Claudio, long time no see. Happy to see you here.
Hello.
All right. So yeah, there is this question from the chat which says, from Piotr, who asks if you use it, do you use it in surgery telemedicine on a daily basis or rather during events? I guess, as Claudio mentioned.
Okay, yeah, we do not do it daily basis, but regular basis. So that's how frequent is depend on the program. So some program, is done a weekly basis, or some are done seasonal basis, several times a year or something like that, or some could be done annually, big ones, or something like that. So that depends.
Okay. I have a question, if I can. I was wondering if when you started all this, it's more a curiosity if you want. When you started all this, you had, you would have guessed that you'd have reached all the success that you achieved so far. So were you expecting that telemedicine could have been so successful when you started?
Well, no, actually not. We actually didn't have any expectation. But what I felt at the time when we started it, this kind of thing was so interesting to me. As I said at the beginning, we faced a very new type of surgery. So the many doctors wanted to learn this new one. So the situation is something like, many Korean doctors visited the key centers in Japan, included our own, to the new type of surgery, especially the endoscopic gastrectomy, removal, resection of the stomach of the with the cancers. So one of the Korean doctor shown in my slide was very good at computer things. So actually, he proposed to us to start this kind of live demonstration. So that's the first time, and because again, there was a big demand from many people once we started. So we provide our technology or our support to many people. Then it expanded to Asia first, and then we had new friends in Latin America, new friends in Africa, new friends in other parts of the world. So that's why they expanded like this so far.
Cool. Interesting. Thank you for your answer, Professor. Any other question? Well, I see that there is a question from the audience. What other technical challenges other than internet have been encountered in developing countries? So were there, besides the fact that, of course, internet probably wasn't yet at best, were there other technical challenges and also policy challenges that you encountered in developing countries?
Okay. So when we started the collaboration with the Asian countries, of course, the internet was the main issue because we required as much as 30 megabps. So the only countries where the research and education network was possible, we could start this kind of activity. So mainly in the key university hospitals or key medical colleges in the country. But other than that, even, the sound should have been a next key problem, because at that time we are connected as a group, not like an individual connection like today. So that when we set up a system in a group, there is a speaker, there is a microphone, so that we often encounter the echo of the sound. So that should have been, and even now, when we connect to the group, we carefully have to set up a system or something like that, and we distributed the necessary equipment like a speakerphone or some mic mixer or something like that to the many collaborators first, because those things are not so easily available at the time, especially in developing countries. So that should have been good, and that was a problem.
It was an issue. All right. So I don't really see additional questions from the audience, no, from the chat. Yeah, so
Since our second presenter doesn't seem to be around, I guess we have a slot free, and yesterday we received a request if you would have a slot free for an additional presentation. Vasily, this is your chance to present. Are you here? Are you ready?
Thank you very much, Professor.
Well, I am here, but I was not that much prepared to start speaking about that. Anyway, by the way, I've got the question to our presenter first, if it's possible. So the question is about histopathology. So we established all the facilities to have access to this whole slide pathology images here because we are computer science specialists. But unfortunately, the partners of our pathologists from Cancer Hospital, they are working in Japan right now. And what they are doing, they are not able to communicate with our pathologists using our facilities because they have different job duties, different time zone, etc., etc. So what they're doing, they just send that files to us and we provide locally all the consulting. So that's the problem. I think it's one of the very basic problems of the telemedicine services. So do you think it's possible to resolve somehow?
Okay, so I understand. So that, the one thing we need to note is that what the purpose of that kind of pathology sharing. I mean, only for the getting the right diagnosis. I think just sending the image might be good, to have a right diagnosis. But if you want to have an explanation or how they reach to the final diagnosis, then we need a discussion, just like I showed you. So of course, Java cannot be solved. So what we do with Latin America, which are the most far place, just the opposite side of the earth, is to have a very small window of our common time frame. So that is about 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Early morning here in Japan and a bit late evening in Latin America. So that's how we do it. So we sit down here in the early morning before we work, and in Latin America, they sit down there after they finish working or something like that. So we try to find a small window between the collaborators.
Okay, thank you very much. Is it possible to do the presentation right now?
Well, if I can, I do have a comment which I learned while collaborating in this area, and also with Professor Shimizu, of course, since more than 20 years. What we learned is that an issue sometimes is that the equipment, which is the medical equipment, which is being used to do diagnosis and so on, is very proprietary. So every company provides a different one. And so it's very easy to share an image because a way or another you capture an image. But imagine you want to capture everything else which get out of the equipment. I'm not a doctor, but I mean, you can understand, for example, graphical monitoring system and so on. And that is very, very difficult because there is no standard in the area. So they don't talk to each other if there are two different machines. That might also be a very good way of sharing the data and doing telemedicine, of course, because you don't only see the image, but you see the monitoring of what's happening. But for that one, we can also only try to push for better standards between the vendors, and that's it. But we can do, because there are standards.
Thank you for your comments.
There's a question from Luis in the chat about Professor, how do you think we could convince world authorities that we have now health collaborative networks? So I guess this is more like a general strategy question.
Okay.
How would you convince?
Is it a question to me?
Yes, it's how would you convince?
I suppose that Luis should know more than I do. So anyway, the group like yours, working close to the government people or policy makers, should tell them how important this kind of activity is, and sit on the same table, or just try to persuade them, policy makers, and maybe doing this kind of things steadily to show this kind of things to as many people as possible. Then sometimes some key person may pick this up and then talk to the right person to make this more prevailed and something like this. So the reason why we are still surviving and expanding is that many people around us find it very useful. So the funding source provide us with some money, and then we have more staff, year by year or something like this. So as far as we keep working on a useful project or project good for people, then someone should know this and expand. That maybe what we have done so far.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Shimizu.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very informative. It was a great contribution.
So have a good day. So
you too.
I will go back home. Bye-bye. And keep in touch. Thank you.
Goodbye. Keep in touch. Thank you.
I would like to ask Vasily to give his presentation, and I would like to ask you to shortly introduce yourself. You have about 8 minutes.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So I am Vasily, I am from Belarus, and I am from United Institute of Informatics, and we are for a long time working on medical domain, and now including telemedicine. So I will be talking very briefly, but it's rather an announcement, but I will be talking about something which is more deep in my view than just simply communication, support of communication, video communication or whatever. So I will be talking about automation also of diagnosis function to support medical services. So please note it's a website where you can find some details. So first, the very important slide, which I want to thank all the our sponsors for very strong support of our work. And then let's go ahead. So in our country, we already have a long time functioning telemedicine systems. Something more than 10 years already. Oops. And that's, for example, one telemedicine system to diagnose of lung disease, another one which is for screening of breast cancer. And this is a really huge systems which are large, etc., and which at the end they provide a lot of images for us as a byproduct. So the first service we establish in our server is the service for support of diagnosis of lung disease based on X-ray images for screening purposes. So that's AI-based technology, and this is the goal is say whether it's everything is okay with lung or something wrong, and then it should be a patient should be directed to a specific hospital to do that. So you can everything what I am saying you can test by yourself on our website if you want. You can test the images, etc., etc. Everything is free. So the second service is about lesion detection on lung, which are maybe caused by very different reasons. And very recently, this is of course this COVID nasty virus. But we are concentrated only also on tuberculosis and many other reasons which cause something abnormal. So lesion is something in lung which should not be there, but it's still possible. So what is typically for radiologists, they go through the slices, slice by slice, to in lung, and then they see whether there is something abnormal there. So we can do this automatically. You can use it from your computer if you want. If you have a CT images, just apply them and see what's going on. And that's the result. Some results. So of course the COVID also caused specific, but still some abnormalities in lung, which are visible on CT. So recently we took part in a worldwide challenge on that. And so we actually succeed to get to top 10 in the world on that task. And finally we got number 6. Our solution was rated as number 6 in the world of automatic detection of lesions which are caused by COVID. So let's go next. This is our service. I'm not able to show it in real time, but if you want, I can do, or just you go by yourself and try to see by yourself. So this service is web-based service on examining of pathology images as a gold standard for cancer diagnosis in many cases. So, and this is also based on recent technologies, deep learning, etc. And this is the whole slide images, which are just amazing for diagnosis of cancer. I will not show this, but you can do this by yourself actually, or I can show you later on. Is everything okay with this deep learning, etc.? No, it is not. Unfortunately, it is not. On the left, you see this nice red fox, which is actually recognized after certain modification of original image, recognized as President Donald Trump picture. So that's a kind of joke, but it really exists. So it's possible to attack deep learning solution to force them to wrong diagnosis. In our case, it's diagnosis, of course. It's not, toys like red fox. But it's something important. So on pair of that images, you see on the left original image, and on the right you see the attacking image, malicious image, which is just take original images, slightly modify using very, very advanced technologies. And then it goes to wrong diagnosis. All the images, like this one, which is cancer, this one is forced to diagnose as norm, and this is vice versa. So that's the dangerous problem, which is everywhere. Just believe me, it's everywhere. And we are doing research on this field. So there is no product so far on that domain, but there are some publications, etc., etc. And one of the very, very last point is that you know that once you start dealing with medical data, medical images in particular, you enter to the territory of problems. This is legal problems due to the personal data. This is ethical problems. This is technical problems, etc., etc. For deep learning, we need a lot of them, but hospitals are not happy to share with us, like IT people, etc. So what we are trying to do, we want to use the recent technology, so-called generative adversarial networks, to generate artificial images which are undistinguishable in any respect from real ones. So you see the images which are of people which doesn't exist. That's X-ray images, histology images, and any other images. So of course, we tested that on using our partners, which we have a lot, medical doctors. So we tested that results on 3 different groups of medical doctors who are radiologists, who are some other medical specialties dealing with the lung images. And essentially, they are not able to recognize which image is real, of real person, which is generated. So this service actually may generate unlimited amount of artificial images for students, for coursework, for training other neural networks, etc., etc. So just go to our site, click, and you will get as many as you want for free immediately. The magic point behind is that the images generated, which you see, they're generated from just one vector of random numbers. So that's it. You can get millions of them for free, for nothing, and they will be different, and they are not real people behind. That's the good point. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if you got question, I can answer,
Yeah.
just by email or whatever.
Yeah. Is there any quick question for Vasily?
There is one in the chat from Daniel. How good is the detection rate compared to actual doctors?
Okay, of course, we always testing this. So it's different in different situations. For instance, on X-ray image examination for lung diseases, this is in agreement in terms of it's in agreement with satisfied World Health Organization requirements. So that's very important because some solutions we are going to use in the business. That's very important. What is funny issue about to recognize real images and artificial ones for real doctors, they're actually doing worse comparing to software engineer, because software engineer looking at very tiny signs of the kind of noise, etc., and they recognize that. But medical doctors looking in depth to the image, and they actually doing worse than software engineer, but they're not able to recognize. And finally, of course, we analytically test all of that. So it's expressed in numbers. So if you need more information, specific information about, because we are talking about very different things right now. So in different situations, it's different. So, but anyway, like you see on COVID, world competition, we are on the top because it's all measured in numbers. The same, we have a lot of good students who are very clever. So in my group, and they are doing pretty well. In all that challenges, we are always in top 1-2%, like histology, deep learning on histology, image analysis, classification of cancer, etc. So that's the answer. Very general, of course, but still.
Thank you. Thank you, Vasily. Any other question? Yeah, it doesn't seem so. So if there are no additional questions, thanks again for this very interesting presentation. And we go for the coffee break now and reconvene in 10 minutes.
Okay, people are coming back slowly, so it's time to start our second session, lightning talks, and we will start with Karina Kemp because she's from Australia, and we want to allow her to go to bed in a reasonable time, not after midnight. So she will be first.
Thank you very much,
Karina. So I'll give you a short introduction. Dr. Karina Kemp is the Director of eResearch at ARNet, and Karina leads the ARNet with eResearch team, who are focused on developing eResearch services for the Australian research community, from network infrastructure and data movement through tools to cloud services. Please, Karina, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me this evening, or this morning for you. It's been quite an intense week for some of us because we're also participating in some other European conferences happening at the time. So this is a normal for me this week, actually, our new jet lag. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about our journey into supporting health and medical research. So we don't use the term eHealth so much, although we do have a number of digital health initiatives in Australia. But we're more focused on what can ARNet do to assist in health and medical research. And I'm going to talk to you about what we've done to try and understand what we can do over the last few years and some of the things we've got planned for the future. I'm also joined in the audience tonight by Frankie Stevens. Frankie has led a lot of this work. She comes from a life sciences research background and is leading all our engagement in this space. But we've also had contributions from Guido Aben and Jen Rosewell. So just a little bit about ARNET. So ARNET is Australia's academic and research education network, and we've been delivering network services to Australian research and education for the last 30 plus years. We're set up slightly differently to other NRENs. We're actually a not-for-profit organisation, and we're owned by the universities and CSIRO, which is our Commonwealth Science Agency in Australia. We don't receive any ongoing government funding. We rely entirely on our shareholders and our services. So it means that we have a slightly different way of going about building a business model for a new service, because we have to think about how we can charge for that service. We do partner with the research community to build new services as well. And sometimes we apply for new grants in partnership with the research community. We have a vision of being a globally networked data sharing ecosystem. So we want to be not just about the network, but about enabling the data to move across the network that research and education needs. We have a mission to provide transformational connectivity and collaboration services for research and education. So as I said before, we're owned by the universities and CSIRO, they're our shareholders, but we provide services to the broad research and education community in Australia. So that is the universities, but also schools and TAFEs, which are our technical colleges. PFRAs are our publicly funded research organisations. So things like our Geoscience Australia, our Bureau of Meteorology, those sorts of organisations that are government, but they do research. We also provide services to cultural institutions, galleries, libraries, museums, and archives. We also provide services to instruments like the Square Kilometre Array and things and organisations that are supporting those sorts of big research instruments. But lastly, we provide connectivity services to health. So one of our biggest customers in this space is the Health Department of New South Wales. So in Australia, our health system is divided up and delivered by each of the states and territories, very similar to the United States of America. So we have to actually negotiate with each of the different states separately in the services that we can provide. But we also provide some services to medical research institutes as well. And what led us to want to get into this space is actually understanding how we could expand that customer base and support research. So the sort of services that we deliver at the moment to, for example, New South Wales Health is 100 gig network connectivity, Eduroam, and connectivity to public cloud. We don't connect all of their hospitals, but we connect a lot of the hospitals across the sector. Next slide. So in 2018, the senior leadership at ARNET got together to develop a new strategic plan. And we had some normal things in there. We want to continue to own the network infrastructure, and we've been investing a lot in the work that we've been doing in that space. We wanted to increase our capabilities in cybersecurity, and we've been developing a cybersecurity operations center, as well as a number of DDoS mitigation services to support the research community in this growing space. We also have a very big country in Australia to support, so we want to make sure we expand our regional footprint across Australia and connect as much of Australia as we can. And we also want to make sure we're maintaining customer value. But we also want to expand our over-the-top services above the network. And so we are expanding our data services. So we already provide a cloud data storage service called Cloud Store, which is very similar to CernBox, or Surf has a similar system as well, and it's based on OwnCloud, our system we're using. But we also wanted to work out how we could expand our services more into health and medical research infrastructure and how we could support that community. So since 2018, we've been doing a lot of work to understand what we can do in that space. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. So the aim of our sort of e-health strategy or our health and medical strategy is to maximise the value that ARNet can give to the health and medical sector. We want to provide the community with appropriate collaboration services. We've heard from a lot of talks already, the limitations that clinicians and researchers have at hospitals to actually collaborate even within their own hospital, let alone with the broader community or internationally. So we want to see what we can do in that space. And we wanted to also collaborate with this community to accelerate the digital tools and techniques that they needed for their research. So we did 3 major engagement pieces over the last couple of years to try and understand what the needs are. We saw a lot of in the Mentimeter, we actually should ask what they need. So we did. The first one really evolved from, we had researchers wanting to use sensitive data in our own cloud store service. We weren't set up for that. Although we are serious about security, we hadn't considered personal identified data and things like that. So we didn't have, for example, GDPR compliance of personal data going into the system. So we said, well, let's talk to the community and understand what they need. So Frankie, who's here, Dr. Frankie Stevens, led engagement with the community to understand what they meant by sensitive data, what they needed and what the standards were. We found out of that consultation, but that there was a lot of challenges in the understanding of digital infrastructures, how to keep their data safe, how to share their data in a secure way, and what actual services were out there to assist them that existed at the moment. So what we did next was then say, well, let's actually understand what's out there at the moment. If we're going to deliver more services above the network or expand our network services to secure network connectivity to some of these hospitals, who else is doing it? So we did a health and medical sector analysis, a landscape analysis, just to understand what's going on. Now this, we've got like a 100-slide pack that I could share with anyone that's interested about what they came up with. So we had a consultant come in and interview a number of health and medical researchers and clinicians across Australia and understand where the gaps were. And I've just pointed out here that, you know, I said we've got a challenge with our business cases. We actually had to think about, well, first of all, can they pay for this? This is probably small fry compared to the numbers that you spend in Europe on health and medical research. But this is probably one of our biggest areas of spend in research in Australia. And that's just a split up with that. So from there, we came up with a number of ideas, but we wanted to drill down more into specific needs of medical research institutes that are supporting research and trying to connect with hospitals. So last year, we ran sessions with all of the medical research institutes across Australia to understand what they needed and their challenges of supporting that. And we have, again, a large report that goes through some of the things. And I'm just showing a word cloud here of the types of services that they said that they needed, from disaster recovery to electronic lab notebooks to cybersecurity archive, sensitive data service. So this helped us understand what they needed and to develop our services. How am I going for time? Probably gone over. Okay. I've got 2 more slides. This is some of the answers that they responded back with from those consultations, both from the SWIFT consultations, which was that market landscape, but also the MRI engagement meetings. And I'm not going to go through all of those. But what that's led us to is this last slide, which is ARNet's evolving services. So we've used this to feed into what we want to do next. We are developing a sensitive data service. So based on OwnCloud, based on our cloud, the success of CloudStore, we are developing a new system which will be able to hold sensitive data in it. We built a proof of concept last year, and we're going to going into production this year. And so that's going to be our main service for health and medical research. But we've also got all of these other services from the network all the way up that can support health and medical and digital health in Australia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karina. We have time for one quick question. There's one. There's none in the chat. Well, in this case, thank you very much, Karina. That was very helpful, very enlightening, your talk. And I wish you to have a nice evening now. I think you will drop out of our workshop.
You can hang around till lunchtime if you'd like me to, if anyone has any
great.
questions that they'd like.
Then we can take another more questions for the session led by Martin. Okay, great. So I will lead over to Neringa to introduce Alexander.
Yeah, and let me introduce Alexander Golubev from RENAM, Moldovan Network, NREN. He's a leading specialist of implementation of applied systems and network security solutions development, and has experience in development of specialized applications for medical imaging, their integration in the national medical information systems, experiments with the big data processing instruments. So Alexander, stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Do you see my screen? So do you see my presentation better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for introducing me. So I understand that I have only 8 minutes to make this presentation. So my presentation will be targeted on describing how we use NREN infrastructure to help hospitals in their work with the pandemic. And actually, I will show a tool that is called DICOM Network that was developed for years, and how we can fast integrate this tool to make real help to the doctors and to our government. So first of all, again, do you see my slides, I hope, yeah?
Yes, we see them in presentation mode, but that's okay anyhow.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. So first of all, what tools for eHealth we provide in NREN? It was in 2012, so 8 years ago, we developed a project that actually should help collecting and sharing the medical images between hospitals, students, patients, doctors, and make all of these online, make all of these accessible through the web interface, mobile devices, etc. And this system was put into production in 2012 and was and provides following features. So first of all, it's data collect, it's import of the DICOM investigation from the equipment. Then it's data archiving, possibility of archiving the information from many years. Data access is providing access to the on role base, so to the doctors, to the patients, to the different management. We have right now about 10 roles in this system, and it's customizable for each of the NREN customer. Sure, visualization. So if you not have tools for visualization of of the investigation, doesn't make any sense. So here you can see on the slide some how it looks like. And data processing. Sure, data processing, it's not the strong point of this application, of the system. Data processing was one of the additional specific features that we can provide, but actually we are focused really on sharing the images. So far we have we have installed this system to 3 portals. 2 of these portals are in Moldova, 1 is outside. And what it by this diagram, it's shown how it works in general cases, general words. So we have equipment. It's most top level, I will say, yeah. So from equipment, we put the data on the specific DICOM servers. DICOM servers is some kind of storage and processing. These DICOM services push the data, but on the smart portion of data to the portals. And these portals are accessible by end users. End user can find information on this portal. And also then communication between the portals is done through the data interface that can make possible exchanging data between the different portals. And we have during these 8 years, we make a lot of integrations with various types of systems, various types of hospital information systems. So how it's related to the pandemic and how really we can help with our customers pandemic period. So frankly saying, before the pandemic, this application was worked in production only in one hospital. But after pandemic start, we installed already. It's in 5 hospitals, and and demand for this application is increasing every day. So idea is that, as you know, for pandemic, it's important not to take out anything from the red zone. So the problem at the beginning of the pandemic was that doctor, the specialists who work with the equipment have to be make the investigation, print some films, or write some CD or put it on some any location, and then he have to put the information in the medical record, in patient medical record, and all together, all the paperwork, all the films, everything he take out from red zone and shared with some doctors who worked outside. And in fact, it makes this paperwork infected. It's one problem. Another problem is that many doctors, everybody of us now, are trying to work from home. And it was not possible to share this information to make them make a decision from home or outside the institution. And the last but not least is that when we started at the pandemic start, some hospitals served the coronavirus patients, some hospitals have not served it. And the doctors from the hospitals that does not work with the coronavirus can can help remotely the doctors and the institutions that does it. So after we change the workflow, it becomes much more safety. So in red zone, there was equipment, it was patient. Okay, there was doctor who should stay near equipment, but then he sends the data directly to the other actors, to the other doctors, and other doctors already make the decision, put the decision, make the documentation, check the state, and make the archive. And all of this was connected to the electronic medical record. So no any paperwork, no any films. This is how we help to our hospitals, and that makes really important possibility to install this quick to new institution and really be able to connect equipment as quick as possible. So, for example, at the beginning of the pandemic, the infection disease hospital, we installed all the software in 2 days, and NREN also provides a stable internet connection between this hospital and emergency hospital. So emergency hospital specialists make all the work, all the background work for the patients that stays in the infection disease hospital. So all of this makes this system really help, and the number of investigation we gathering was increased in 3 times during this period. Sure, we have some interest from outside of Moldova as well. So we have initiatives for open science because we can share this data. We have interest from Archangels, we have interest from Romania. And some numbers. So it's the first system really put into production of such type of system in Moldova. We already have installed 3 portals. We connected 4 hospitals. Sorry, it's 5 hospitals. The number is incorrect. We have 5 DICOM servers installed. 19 equipments that provide data with DICOM connected. We collect about 500 investigations per day. We already collected about 500,000 of investigations in the system science for the last 3 years. 650 doctors have access to the system. Some doctors have direct access, some doctors have access to the results of the system because we integrated in the hospital information system. About 1 terabyte of data is collected every month and should be stored on the storages. And thanks to this application, every hospital connected to this save about €5,000 per month for some consumables, printables, etc. Because for COVID patients, the pictures should be done every few days, and all of this is not necessary to be printed now. Hope I was able to fit in time I have. So now if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, so let me just check the chart.
Yeah, there is a question from Raj from Armenia. How do you support the data security to trust to use the NREN facilities to share and process the health data?
So we're not sharing the data between we have agreement between, for example, hospital of infection disease and emergency hospital, and they share their data. In fact, they use the same server, but we are not sharing the data between the institutions without agreement.
Okay, thank you, Alexander. Thank you for such an interesting and real use case. And I would like to ask Leonie to introduce the next speaker.
Yeah, I have now the pleasure to introduce Martin Bech with his lightning talk. Martin is director of the Danish NREN DIC for already 8 years, and he is active in a lot of areas, and he will give us an overview of the eHealth research and the DIC support in Denmark. Martin, the stage is yours. So we see your slides, but we cannot hear you.
Thank you very much. Much better? Yes,
Good.
Good. I'll just give a brief overview of how we are doing supporting the health sector in Denmark. And I think this is, we are just, sorry. Oh, here we are. We're just a standard NREN in a small country. Yeah, that's just it. And we have a fairly standard set of services where we have, of course, I'm sorry, it's in Danish, but you get the gist. We have the basic research network. We support a lot of online collaboration tools, including Zoom that we're using right now. And we have security services, and also DIC is doing data management and HPC. We are involved in at least the financing of that. That is the responsibility of the universities, really. Now, and the medical research and healthcare in Denmark, of course, we have a number of hospitals. They are divided into 5 health regions, and they are all doing research. So you cannot say there's a specific university hospital or things like that. They are all doing research, and they are all doing healthcare. And we have universities at 4 of our 8 universities educate candidates in medicine. And of course, we have primary healthcare by the local GPs and the large pharmaceutical industry, and a lot of companies and actors that are private operators that also do services in the healthcare area in Denmark. Now, in the following, I'll say, think of the health sector as a university hospitals, because that's really the kind of entities we engage with. So if we look at what the university hospitals or the hospitals in general are using, they are using our basic internet connectivity from us, the NREN, in a few places, but not all. Most of them, they all have commercial ISPs, and also for point-to-point connections, they have few connections from us connecting their buildings and so on. But in general, they also use the commercial ISPs for that. And naturally, in a big health sector, you need a lot of dedicated connections in order to exchange, for instance, DICOM images or other stuff. And for that, they have a dedicated structure, which is built. We helped the health sector build that in the zeros. And it is a type of service which is very equivalent to the MDVPN service of GÉANT. But that works internally for the hospitals, but it is kind of isolated from the outside world, and therefore we have nothing to do with it today. But we have one big success at least, and that is a lot of new connections for the genome processing. I'll get to that in a minute. Then there's also the video conferencing. I'll get to that too. And then for the other services, our Access Federation, for instance, called WaveDK, is only used in for a few services, mainly university library services and stuff like that. But on the other hand, they have their own AAI Federation. They also use Eduroam in a few places, but again, in most places, they just have classical guest Wi-Fi access and another SSID for their employees and has nothing to do with the NREN. And they're not using our certain security services. They had a dedicated setup for that. And also high performance computing and data management. For that, they use their own IT departments, except for the national gene processing equipment that we have. Now, this is, this is the picture as it is today, and it's not a huge success, except for this new trend. And I guess this will also come to you. In hospitals in Denmark, it's grown very popular. I would say it's almost a tsunami that they would like to provide personalized medicine. You may know that most of the medications we give to patients today are not efficient at all. Standard medications only typically are only really effective for 1 out of 10 or 20 patients. And finding out which patients should actually have which medicine is something you can do by sequencing the genome and then matching it for various markers and comparing it to the genome pool we already have. And for that, you need these sequencing machines. There's a picture of one. And they produce a continuous data rate when they are working, about 4 to 8 gigabits. And all of the Danish hospitals are getting them. They are getting them from private foundations and stuff like that. It's not only so they are all getting them. You could say in the 90s and in the zeros, all the hospitals got big MRI scanners and PET scanners and so on. But these days, it's these machines that are really coming into the hospitals. And usually, the hospital network cannot support data rates like that, actually. And that's our chance, because then they need us to come into the hospitals, connect these machines, and connect them directly to the processing facilities, which is the national genome databases that we also in DICE have supported. So this is really the driver for our the build out of networking, but it's dedicated connections. It's not like the whole university is using us as an internet provider. It's just for these machines at the moment, which is a bit sad, but okay, it's far better than nothing. Another issue we have had with the hospitals during COVID here is that for some years we have offered a Zoom service, and it's based on an on-prem service server infrastructure that we run in the Nordic region, run by Nordnet. And when COVID hit, of course, before COVID hit, the hospitals were much more comfortable using Teams and Skype, and then COVID hit, and there was a big demand from especially from researchers and educators in the health sector to use Zoom for natural reasons. I mean, you can be many online as we are right now in the same meeting, sharing video and stuff. So Zoom is kind of better suited for that than Teams or Skype. And at first they said, "Oh, Zoom is forbidden," because they have read some security issues, so they just said Zoom is forbidden. Now, after a huge pressure due to educational obligations from their employees, professors, and so on, Zoom was then allowed for educational purposes. And we sat down together with the hospital security people and actually did some research together with them using all sources we had and so on. And they were actually convinced that Zoom is just as good as Teams or Skype from a security point of view. They have the same problems, or more or less, and from a security point of view. So why not allow Zoom? Again, it just shows that this is not a question of technical issues or commercial issues. It's also a question of their mindset. And the mindset of a lot of the IT people and security people that are at least in Danish hospitals, is coming from public administration, from commercial companies and so on. So they have a fairly enterprise IT mindset. And for them, something that is a service from an NREN is exotic, it is strange, it is not natural, and they think we will never be fired for buying commercial ISP connections, we will never be fired for buying Microsoft, whereas something that comes from an NREN is exotic, and we have problems convincing them to use our services. So you could say, is the glass half empty or half full? Hospitals are really an important part of national research and education. Therefore, we should serve them. We do that with a lot of 10G and 100G connections at the moment. But as I tried to outline here, we have a poor uptake of all the other services. So due to the size, of course, they're still an important user, even though they have a poor uptake, but we could do so much better. Of course, we have a huge task in front of us. The hospitals, they need our services, I think. They just know it themselves. They don't know it themselves. And so this is the challenge we have to work with, and even more in the future. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you very much. Perfect timekeeping. So if you have questions to Martin, please save your question, and for the panel later on, because now we're running out of time. Otherwise, we continue now with Piotr Pavolovsky.
Hi.
Quick introduction.
Can you hear me?
Piotr. Piotr is now for over 17 years researcher at PSNC in Poznan, and his research focuses on advanced multimedia and communication services and their usage in healthcare and education. And in what's very interesting, in 2016, he has founded a spin-off company, Medvc, which main product is the Medvc Platform, a remote collaboration tool for medical professionals. So please, Piotr, the stage is yours.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for the introduction. I will try to share my screen. Just a second. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, thank you again for the introduction. I will be talking a bit about what PSNC, as the Polish NREN, is doing in supporting eHealth, and a bit as Medvc at a spin-off that was created in 2016. So, well, PSNC is the operator of the NREN in Poland. We are a research center for now 28 years already there, with almost 400 employees, with ICT laboratories. And yes, we provide connectivity to all research centers, public institutions in Poland, connected directly to GÉANT and to other internet exchange points. And as this is a lightning talk, I will not talk a lot about what is PSNC and what we else do, but I will focus on medicine and e-health. And in the times of the COVID, this really got boosted right now. We introduced few services that helped in the COVID times to link up doctors and to provide different kinds of services for the medical. But I will focus a bit about my story, the story of Medvc and what we do, and then I will talk a bit about overall services for e-health that PSNC as an NREN provides. Okay, so we've been doing telemedicine from the 90s, really in PSNC from the start. We had a lot of projects, there were research projects done in the Eureka and the framework programs, which come up with solutions for connecting doctors to doctors using video conferencing, video streaming, and so on. But usually a lot of the projects don't go to the market because it's a problem that as a research center, of course, we focus on the research, and the adoption of the solutions in the real world on the commercial market is always a difficult task. We succeed in many projects in PSNC, but that needs also some kind of push to do it. And I was on a course in Stanford some 10 years ago, and then I a little bit got infected by the spirit there to bring the research product of the telemedicine platform to the market. We had an acceleration phase, and in 2016, we founded the company Medvc, which brings the Medvc platform to the market. So what's the Medvc platform? It's a remote collaboration tool for medical professionals. So it's in the doctor-to-doctor scenario, like it was said before by the four speakers. It's a platform that enables real-time audio-video collaboration, so video conferencing directly from the operating room to any other location like a doctor's office, conference room, lecture room. So it's being used for in-surgery consultations and medical education, for example. It enables the connection of practically any medical device, microscope, endoscope, medical camera. So we get the videos and we send multiple video streams to the other side. We are doing it also in 3D, for example, from the Da Vinci robot. And we have a set of services that it's available, and it allows to enhance such a remote collaboration session. We can draw on the picture, pause live video, record, live stream. These are examples of our setups. We have an OR setup on the medical card with all the equipment integrated. We have setups for a conference room, for an office, and so on. What makes us different is that we have, from standard video conferencing solutions, we have more services. We send high quality video, which was tested in a living lab environment with doctors, the compression, and so on. So to bypass the obstacles of video compression. And we are not as expensive as some of the solutions. For our users, there are mainly medical universities, schools of surgery, but also we do transmissions for conferences, symposiums, all kind of use case when the connection of an operating room with the outside world is necessary. We have clients in Poland and in Europe, just to show that it's already there on the market, and many hospitals are using our solutions. One of the typical scenarios that got boosted now during the COVID times is the interactive medical university scenario. So we have an operating room, a conference room or a lecture room where some students are, but this is not a must, connected in a virtual session when the students can ask the surgeons questions and so on. And we broadcast this also to the internet, to the students. So this we done in the Poznań Medical University during the COVID times because they couldn't do the teaching of the young doctors. So this was a solution that we introduced. And we do also surgical broadcast like worldwide. This is an example of an ENT broadcast where there are like 10 or 12 hospitals operating in parallel, and there are moderators in our TV studio. Unfortunately, this broadcast didn't happen in 2020 due to COVID, but some other we also did. This was postponed to 2021. And then when we come back to PSNC and as an NREN and providing of services, so for us, the first thing is the connectivity, because without the connectivity, the hospitals do not have the possibilities to have such telemedical services, or as the previous speaker said, to transmit DICOM images to processing facilities, to the some kind of servers outside. So connectivity, and we connect together. This is of the pioneers of our Polish NREN. We connect 59 healthcare providers and also medical universities which are listed in universities. There are 20 few right now in Poland. So for all the clinical hospitals of the universities, we have a fiber connection directly to the NREN. So this is, for me, the first step, getting the connectivity. Then we have also a lot of activities in the cybersecurity area. So we do audits of eHealth systems. For example, we did for the School of Telemedicine system, and also PSNC done an audit of the Medvc system. We are participating in R&D projects that produce results in the eHealth domain in Horizon 2020 or in national projects. We collaborate also with SMEs like Medvc and others that are providing services in projects when they are introducing their solutions into the hospitals. But in the security, I have maybe one controversial sentence, but we do not forget that patients want to be cured and not secured. So of course, the security, data security, connection security is important. However, for the patient, we need to allow them to be cured. So to make the doctors do their work and not to bring security as a barrier of introducing helpful services. Now a bit, this is my last slide, about other things, trust and identity. This is something that is really lacking because although we have the Pioneer ID running from 2014, no medical university has launched their identity provider. And well, this is something that needs a little bit more evangelization on our side and to allow this service to be introduced in the hospitals. We also provide virtual machine, OpenStack machines for introducing of eHealth services and storage for medical data. We have a living lab, future labs, and eHealth laboratory. So these are physical rooms with equipment, also medical equipment, where doctors and IT people can meet and work together to develop ideas about new services or how to enhance existing ones. We participate in many of the surgical broadcasts, so this is always a collaboration between PSNC and Medvc, where we do live surgery streaming over the NREN network and transmission of conferences. We also, in the terms of the living labs, provide training, so we meet doctors, show them the services and what functions and how to use them on a daily basis. And we are participating in R&D projects together with hospitals from the region and from the whole Poland, and with SMEs providing services, eHealth services to the hospitals. And that's it. That was a lightning talk, so I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have questions, please do ask.
Thank you very much, Piotr. I think I would ask everybody to put the question in the chat and we will answer this or tackle the questions in the panel later on. Otherwise, we run out of time. I think, Marina, it's your part to take over now.
Yeah, hi. So let me introduce you to Luis Ari Messina, who started as an electrical engineer with a master in database and a PhD in computer graphics in Germany, where he was assistant professor. Now, 15 years ago, so in 2006, started the National Coordination of RUTE, which is the Brazilian Telemedicine University Network at the National Research and Education Network. You might recognize RNP. Today, he's also president of the Brazilian Association of the Telemedicine and Telehealth, ABTM. His talk also focuses on collaborative academic networks. Luis, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to get, can you hear me? Yes, okay. So I'll be looking at the Sustainable Development Goals as I go on talking about our health insertion here in Brazil under our National Research and Education Network. And the way we came up with was creating a collaborative network. And this started actually when, before that, I had a telemed project with the European Union here in Brazil, and it was well successful with the help of Rede Clara and GÉANT. And so we started this collaboration with our National Research and Education Network, which is quite large in Brazil and already for 30 years running. So we have the National Research and Education backbone already with more than 800 institutions and more than 800 municipalities. Well, just 1/5 of the totality, not even that, 5,700 municipalities. Then we have also metropolitan community networks and the collaborative networks running. So these metropolitan community networks already 39 at the moment in 27 state capitals and more 12, and in construction 24. And this helps us having this interaction with the institutions, with the government, the state government, with the municipality, and that how it's going on. But then to reach the health family units, we have now a project. It goes into the municipalities for connecting these health family units. 15,000. 6,000 are already connected, so that around 10,000 units to connect. 1,200 are already connected, and so it is running. And this is also because our NREN, to get into the interior of the country, we have articulated with more than 80 small companies where the big telecoms do not go in Brazil. The small firms are doing a good job. So regarding the Brazilian National Telehealth Program, we have the 3 large programs, which is the program Telehealth Brazil Network and the Open Health University, which are both financed by our Ministry of Health. And then we have RUTE, which is the one I coordinate, the Telemedicine University Network, with investments from our Science and Technology Ministry. And we've been, since the beginning, 2006, we've been very well coordinated. Professor Ana Estela Haddad is also here with us, and she coordinated the program Telehealth Brazil Network. So we synchronized these actions so that we could expand very well to the 139 university and teaching hospitals. So the NREN here did a good job in also connecting these university and teaching hospitals. And then special interest groups started to be created already in 2008. And this expanded. And I just noticed yesterday, preparing also, that 8 of the first special interest groups in 2008 are already on and sustainable in 2020 this year. So 6 out of 8. So it's a good measure. It's like we have every day 3 to 4 sessions when we take into consideration that we have also now a nutrition network. You can see here the Human Milk Bank, which expanded to Latin American, Caribbean countries, but also to the Portuguese-speaking countries, and is also today a working group from the BRICS. So these everyday sessions are open to any health institutions, but only the members members of RUTI can create new groups and interact. And this gives them a virtual environment already since 2008, as I said, like here, also child and adolescent health and many others, telecoloproctology, dermatology, and so on. And this goes on in a very good integrated manner, but we still need a lot more. And nutrition created then the SIG obesity. And for example, we are integrating child and adolescent health and SIG obesity with some projects to enlarge also a prevention project on child obesity. This could be a good call. Some states in Brazil have understood this possibility already in 2005, before actually we really started, so that they reach now more than 800 municipalities just in this state, and more than 5 million tele-electrocardiograms. 80% of the tele patients need not be transferred, savings in the municipal health budget, and 3,000 electrocardiogram second opinion every day. But this also including 6 university hospitals, all members of RUTI. And then came the pandemic, and others also started to work very hard, as here in the state of Amazonas, the Federal University of Amazonas, not only in remote education, but also in the remote assistance, and at least in the municipalities where the university has an advanced campus. And then this digital health roundtable from the World Health Organization called really my attention, because they started again in the digital transformation, early warning, and with the purpose of having a digital health network of networks. And we and NRENs can really have a place and more representativeness at the World Health Organization to push this more. And as Professor Shimizu showed, we have this collaboration, Japan and Latin America, thanks to Professor Shimizu from the very beginning, and then conversations and collaborations with BRICS countries. And here we have also Professor Natenzon with us, India, also very strong. And then the Portuguese-speaking countries, we had more effective strategies here when we approved the telehealth strategies for the Portuguese-speaking countries. And this helped, for example, Mozambique. Now they have a national program besides the national telehealth programs we already have in Portugal, Brazil, and Cape Verde island, 9 islands out of 10, one is not inhabited. And now we have also the first fiber optics cable between Africa and the Americas, connecting Luanda to Fortaleza. We are already a working group from the CPLP country. In Latin America, we are also advancing, because we just signed an MOU with Red Clara and the NRENs from Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Ecuador for expanding RUTI in Latin America and Caribbean. So collaborative network. So in this sense, the national research and education networks have a lot to contribute to the socio-economic impact, in my opinion, especially if we regard the knowledge networks, knowledge collaborative networks, as I can here now point that between among the 17, we are contributing already to 8 of them. Thank you so much, and we are very glad to have this opportunity here and enabling us to have a better collaboration among NRENs. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. There is already a question for you, but I think that will be taken later on by Martin in the panel. So yes, thank you for your presentation, and which is very impressive considering the very specific landscape of Brazil and the region. And I pass over to Mario for the next speaker.
Thanks, Marina. It's my pleasure to introduce Sabrina Tomasini from GAR, who joined GAR in 2007, and she's an expert in the network infrastructure design and planning, and she's coordinating role in the network planning and engineering team, and also has a role in the partner relations of GAR. So Sabrina, the floor is yours.
Yes, can you hear me and see my slides, Mario?
Yes, everything's fine.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me today. I would like to speak about the Italian experience with biomedical community towards for GAR. GAR is a network, an education network, and currently we connected two groups of biomedical institute, the one from university, the one university hospitals that are mainly hosted by universities, and their research activities funded by Ministry of Education and Research. The second group is institute funded by Ministry of Health and
Sabrina,
are biomedical scientific institute and veterinary research institute. My video, Claudio?
Yes, because you have a poor connection apparently. So we.
Yeah, sorry, I experienced today problems with my home connection. I try again. Okay, the number of connection are the one you see in the slide, 60 sites.
We cannot really hear you.
From.
Want to try switching?
Okay, spread all over the country. Yes, I switch off my video.
Thank you. That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Okay. And we started the collaboration with Ministry of Health in 2006. This point is the final start collaboration with this community because with university hospitals, we did have the direct dialogue with the hospitals. The technical staff coming from university have had a direct connection with them, manage their campus network, and sometimes give them a solution with their requirements. Since 2006, we begin speaking with them and receiving special requirements. So. Sorry, I didn't arrange to, okay. The main goal of this collaboration among Italian institute and at international level and at national level. And here I put some projects that we started to manage. The side Elixir, Mindbot, there are European collaboration. The side was focused on Alzheimer's disease, Elixir in the life science environment, and the common feature of this project is to give them computing resources, training, opportunity to know our services, and help them to use our services. Then we started also national projects like Colibri and INNI. And these projects are focused on rare pediatric disease. And we provide resources to collect images coming from MRI and PET machine, and to we give them support to build a database very large in order to have an accuracy in diagnosis this disease. But what are the services we provide them? The same services we provide to the rest of the community. So network services, cloud application, security support, video conference services, identity federation support, identity federation training, and technical support in general in the collaboration that they made with other research institutes. Here, I would like to put some challenges that we faced during our collaboration. Dr. Shimizu said before that these words are two different words, the one of researchers coming from astrophysics or high energy physics, or cultural disciplines, and the one coming from physicians. So we have to build a common language, a common mindset of using new technology in this field. And at the very beginning, we move in an uncertainty environment because they didn't know anything about the duration of this collaboration. They don't know how we face some technical problems, like, and they have commercial services as the baseline, the way they do things in their environment. So it was difficult to convince them to use our services and to build a trust relationship with them. Right now, we have the duty to keep in mind that we manage sensitive data. So we cannot, how to say, work in the same manner that we do with astrophysics data. We must pay attention of where we put the data and the way we manage the data coming from hospitals. This is an example of what we made for match community. They have some problems in the access of the federation identity. So sometimes they are little institute with a little staff, a little technical staff, and they need also some training to understand the usefulness of this opportunity. So we propose the use of IDP in the cloud. So we virtualize the identity provider and the identity management system, and we give them access, completely access to constantly update this data, and they have control of which is of the researchers that are accessing these services. So we made a difference between physicians and research physicians, and only researchers have access to our services. Really, I put a highlight with the cloud services because these are a very important requirement coming from this community. We implement some feature and some options to request storage and cloud resources, but they have to be trained to do so. Right before the work is very long in the time and hard to convince them to enter in this framework. And we really constantly update this framework. I decided in the slide some answers about the question you made to help us preparing these slides. And the one was for topics of relevance in eHealth. And I think that training opportunities is one of the relating to all the flavor of services that we provide to them, from cloud services to trust identities services or security issues. And I think that this action could be made at national level, but also at international level. And the other topics I think is very important is to give insurance that servers and data are managed in Italy. So we do and no third-party organization managing the data. So this is a very important assurance for them. The other question was about topics that are already covered. And I put some example like video conference service that were very used during the last year, and IDP in the cloud, another cloud service.
Sabrina, please excuse me.
Security issues. And the one of relating to transparency. Yes, sorry?
There's 2 minutes left if you can, sorry, to... just... No, I'm just saying that there's 2 minutes left if you can try to speed up. Everything's fine.
I started again with this slide, Mario.
Yeah, it's fine. Everything is fine. It's just time. If you could close in a couple of minutes, if you could think.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So I would say transparency is a key factor from them. And the last slide was about further investigation. And I put in the slide some ideas that I suggest to discuss later with you. Are we using the same term of use for these services, or requested about a repository to house public biomedical data set? Okay. Sometimes they have agreement to use database of biobank data set and download this data from United States Association of Patients or other institutes. I suggest 2 sites where we can share and store this data. And we receive also requests about multi-factor authentication. And I would like to know if someone else have experience of that requirements or have a real case to share. Thank you. I finished.
Thank you very much, Sabrina, and sorry for time constraints, but I'm sure your answers will be a good input for the panel discussions and the breakout sessions afterwards if you can join. And thank you very much again. So now I'd like to introduce Malcolm Teague, who is coordinating the NHS-HA project at JISC. And he is now taking the floor. So Malcolm, please.
Thank you very much. If Sabrina could just stop sharing her screen, I'll try and share mine.
Just try to do it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's a button. It's below in the Zoom window.
Yeah, just to say, I'm representing the UK. JISC is the NREN for the UK, and I'm just going to tell you a bit about our experiences, which do chime quite heavily, I think, with Martin's experience in Denmark. But
sorry, can you help me doing this? Okay. Okay.
A second. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm having trouble now with in a second. It's not allowing me to. Hang on a second.
It's not allowing you to share. Not yet.
Hang on a minute. Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, I think anyway.
Okay.
Is that working?
Yeah, it's working perfectly. Thanks, Marco.
Great. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. It's really interesting hearing all the contributions today, and thank you for the opportunity to contribute. Yeah, just a bit of context before I talk about the UK experience. Obviously, we have the National Health Service in the UK, which is free at the point of delivery, but it is split into sort of 4 home countries, the way that it is managed, and that includes digital strategy. Each of these sort of central overseeing organizations also have an associated central digital service of some kind, so that they tend to have the remit to do what we would mostly consider e-health. There is an overall management at the national levels within the home countries, but as in many other places, healthcare is managed locally by organizations who are mostly free to purchase their own systems for delivering their care, apart from perhaps some national systems which are obligatory. A complication is that social care rather than health is managed by local authorities, so local government also is in the picture. There is an increasing move to try and bring all these local organizations involved in care and health into integrated care units at a sort of sub-regional level, which would be something of the order of 1 million to 3 million people probably. So there is, we're sort of moving from a sort of competing health organizations to back to more collaboration. So GISC, we've had a long-standing tradition of trying to work with the NHS, as it's most so important for the universities and research institutes in terms of both training and research. So we've had a long-standing sort of communication mechanisms with something called the NHS HE Forum, HE standing for higher education. But overall, in terms of GISC providing services to the NHS, we do that where there is an opportunity for the public good, but mostly we're not really given that remit. So we only really are able to get involved when it sort of is very strongly linked to research or education, or if we happen to have a service which no one else has, that they're happy to have offered. So I'm just going to go through the ones that we are involved in. Connectivity, we had long-standing hope that one day the health service would see the real opportunity of our NREN network, GÉANT, being a core for the NHS, but the politics and other considerations have always got in the way. So essentially, the NHS is the networking is through private networks of various sorts up to now. We do have some collaborations, particularly in Wales, but also in the county of Kent in England. But there is a change here in that the government policy has now shifted away from sort of private networks and to an internet first approach for the public sector. But this will take some time to implement, as a lot of the systems just aren't ready yet for being exposed on internet first. But this policy would significantly help, as GÉANT, being a private network internet and with high bandwidth and high stability, could be a great help to the health service, as has been shown in other countries. So we'll have to see how that plays out over the next years. The health organizations are moving to cloud as well, and we have just support services for cloud, so we can help, but there are many others in the market. I particularly want to ask use of health data and use of sensitive data has come up quite a bit today. Just thought to mention that in the UK, we have a separate organisation called Health Data Research UK, which has been given the remit and set up over the last 4 years to coordinate the way the UK uses health data for research. So they really would be the main party to be involved in European initiatives, and they are already involved in Elixir and all the various other international collaborations. Many of the organizations that are part of that are already connected to GÉANT, but there are NHS organizations and public cloud providers and others involved as well. There are a few sort of key policy changes that are very significant, I think, to where we get involved. We had thought that there would be a call for moving sensitive data in high volume between different research centres, but the approach taken by Health Data Research UK is very much that there should be a few trusted research environments. The data doesn't move, the analytics go to the data, and the linkage of data sets are done on the fly, as it were, through special software rather than bringing the data all together in one place. So JISC haven't up to now had a sort of cloud service themselves. They are looking at that as to whether that's something we could do and whether we would go as far as that being a trusted research environment for sensitive data. We do have developed recently a learning analytics service for our members in the sort of education research, or particularly education side. So that gives us more learning on that. And then the last three sort of areas to mention, Eduroam has been a big thing for us in terms of coordinating with health. It's become an almost de facto standard that NHS sites should have Eduroam to support clinical placement students, because that is particularly the way that clinical education is going, is that a lot of it does take place in the health service itself. We have Open Athens since JISC merged with EduServe. We provide the Open Athens service. That is it's a well-known federated access service for library mostly, but it has been used by NHS libraries for many years. But the NHS, we've been talking to the NHS about federated access for many years, and they have now taken it as their strategy, although if they are building their own system rather than potentially using ours. And then I would say the biggest success we've had really in servicing health is the Govroam. Obviously, many of you will know that started in Netherlands and Belgium. We have a UK federation based on the Eduroam technology. Where this has really worked well is that it was not something that was offered or commercially and wasn't commercially viable, I think, to support. And it's something where just could help. It is Eduroam, but for all public sector organisations. We do have a federated model that it could happen at a region, so that a sort of group of counties, or for instance Wales, can be a federation before hitting the overall UK level. And it has worked well, particularly where in a geographical footprint, the health and local authority organisations all join, and then they can have seamless roaming on Wi-Fi between all the different organisations. And the universities and others are encouraged to have visited Govroam as well. And it's a low-cost subscription model. We're not funded to do this centrally, but it's a low-cost model for people to join. And we have over about 5,000 venues with Govroam, shown a bit on that map. Probably just under half are from health, from the NHS. So yeah, that was a quick canter through. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marco. So Maria, so are there questions from otherwise we could take the question afterwards, since we're really running short on time. Marina, do you want to introduce Maria?
Was Leonie?
Oh, okay. It says Marina, but okay. So Maria, it's your 5 minutes of glory. Please go ahead.
Thanks a lot. So I would like to make a short overview on behalf of GÉANT Cloud team and show you both this traditional picture of NRENs and GÉANT offerings, but also from the other side, this demand from eHealth for computing and also data handling, and also ask some critical questions in the end. So all the GÉANT cloud portfolio services can be used by eHealth users. Compute and storage services, which are known as infrastructure services, collaboration tools for file sync and share, real-time communications, and many other services. There are both pan-European frameworks, but also the preferential quotations available and community-based development. Here you see a slightly different picture of the same portfolio sliced in a more detail, but let's not focus on this today because I want to show you more on the other side. This is actually what we as NRENs offer for eHealth under the umbrella of GÉANT. Our strength is pan-European brokerage, and that we are able to jointly develop offerings with NRENs to cover the needs that commercial providers don't cover. In autumn 2019, GÉANT Cloud team and DFN were invited as keynote speakers to a medical cloud symposium called Cloud for Health in Munich. And this event was organized for DACH region, the German-speaking countries, and also South Korea, doing intensive collaboration with all these countries in the project. So there were government policy representatives, speakers from competency centers, and also Google and IBM from industry. Among these topics of policies, technologies, and strategies, there were also examples from risks and problems and trends and software examples, healthcare, AI, and much, much more. It was all very interesting, but it was also very complicated to follow because of these different vocabularies. Also, probably it was difficult for them to follow our talks. So it's not the easiest to understand, although I have actually myself also worked in a hospital, also in a medical wholesale company, in the department for hospital equipment and laboratory diagnostics and so on. But still at this symposium, we didn't hear some new terms that I discovered actually lately. So these are what I want to share with you. So these terms are fog and edge computing. And I want to show you here the table, what we as NRENs offer for eHealth and what their demand is. So what we focus on is the central cloud computing, which is called clouds. Now, to help to understand it all, I made a drawing yesterday night for you today. I'm not an expert of computing, neither actually expert on drawing. So, but I want to show you what something means. So the central compute is on the right side with these big blue barrels. So eHealth uses many smart devices and moving sensors to monitor and measure patients, but also these healthy sportsmen and all of us from birth to death. The central compute, what NRENs offer, together with institutions then, is then the institution central IT departments, the NREN layer, and also the public cloud, all the flavors of different fruits, let's say. Now the research in fog computing takes place all across this network. And this network includes also these edge devices. Edge computing takes place between the devices and does not reach the cloud at all. So here is only the example of a hospital inside this infrastructure, as some hospitals don't allow their data to reach out at all. But the smart devices are mobile and wireless, so also at homes, in the streets, like Tesla cars also gathering information from each other, or smart cities gathering information, I don't know, about air pollution and something else. So the difference of these cloud, fog, and edge computing. Cloud is central computing, the remote data centers and central servers. Fog computing happens across all this network. Analysis may be done there, or the real compute may take their place. And edge computing happens between the edge devices, gathering data and moving it forward through machine learning and AI solutions. But I won't go into more detail there. So I want to bring this awareness to you as NRENs to think about this changing environment, like where research moves out from NREN's traditional network. And this research network reaches the smart devices and may skip totally what NRENs offer centrally, because it's much faster doing some critical solutions on the place. So do we want to play a role in the new network of smart devices handling the data in other layers, be it trust and ID solutions or security or anything else? Are we flexible and ready to change alongside the external changes? We don't know what it looks like in several years and in what proportion it happens. So is it then enough to continue with the traditional fiber network and the central solutions? Or will we help also our users where the research happens or may happen? I don't know, I'm just asking this today. I just have two questions thus to think about. Do NRENs need to widen their focus? And what role NRENs and GÉANT would or could play in this changing landscape, like 5G and fog computing? But this is all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maria. That's perfect food for thought for our panel now. So this also closes our session 2 lightning talks, and we continue directly with our panel led by Martin Beck. Martin?
Yes, thank you.
You're around.
I trust you can hear me now. While we have to have this compressed for just a quarter of an hour due to time constraints, I'd like to get ahead. We have had a lot of questions in the chat, and I urge you to continue to put your questions in the chat. You may also raise your hands, but I'm not sure we have time for a lot of questions like that. Now, let me start just by one question to Karina Kemp. Are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Super.
Yes.
Super. Now, you showed us a lot of great analysis you have done in order to find out what to provide and so on. But I'm not sure we heard so much about how do you actually see this happen? Do you have some kind of success, or is it just plans to serve the health community at the moment?
So we currently deliver network services to the health community. So we connect hospitals and a number of medical research institutes, but we want to expand that connectivity. But ultimately we found that without having other services that we deliver, we couldn't compete or convince them that we had a value proposition compared to a commercial telecommunications company. So why not with just network services? It is a small market in Australia. A lot of the commercial telecommunications companies
Sorry, no, I mean the other services. The services, I mean, connections, that's one thing. But all the services like Cloud Store and so on, why is that? Yeah, why not?
So we can. So we do deliver Cloud Store to some medical research institutes at the moment, but it doesn't meet some security criteria. Cloud Store has been designed for open science, collaboration, sharing. And what we have done is we've created in our sensitive data service, which will go into production this year, that is about unfeatures out of Cloud Store. So removing the ability to share, adding security constraints, removing it from university data centers where we sometimes have a lot of our cloud store at the moment to secure data centers. So there's a lot of different principles that we now have to put into that to make sure that we are confident that we can put security, sensitive data in this and it won't have a breach. So that is the limitation at the moment. I think one of the challenges, it was interesting in one of the talks, trying to convince the hospitals that as an NREN, we understand security and those sorts of things. So we have had to go through that evolution as well to convince health and medical researchers and government that AARNet is capable of looking after sensitive data and playing in this area, because there was a little bit of a trust challenge. But because of the work we've been doing in the cybersecurity space, that has helped us convince the sector. We've had a number of challenges with cybersecurity across universities in Australia. So we are playing a leading role in helping uplift the universities in their cybersecurity. So that has helped us gain trust in us being able to deliver these other services for health and medical. So trust is a big thing.
Okay, thank you.
Martin, may I give a quick example of how we approach the problem of talking to them? We did have the problem in the very beginning that, of course, they talk a different language. They are commercial ones. They are used to talk to, for example, we started with connectivity, so proposing connectivity to the research hospitals. And of course, they came back immediately, what is your SLA? I want 99% SLA. And we said, we don't have an SLA. So instead of going away, we started to discuss with them what an SLA means. And we teach them that an SLA does not mean you get money back if something is wrong, but that your line is always up and running. And in the end, we managed to convince that it is not worth to get an SLA and money back, but that if we provide them redundant services with double POPs and double links, they will never go down, and they did accept it. And we are trying to do the same for security. So the way that they think of security is a commercial one, and the way we can provide security is a different storage, a different paradigm, which can work. So we discuss with them on all these one by one topic. And for example, now we believe that security is not security by keeping the data into a safe board, but security is the fact that we provide the fact that nobody else than themselves can really read the data. So it's a matter of learning and discussing. So it is a success approach. It takes a lot of time, of course, and clever people on the other side as well. So, but it works.
Okay, that means from these two things here, we hear that security is an important aspect of NREN provisioning services to the health sector. So I'd like to ask Piotr Pavolovsky, you said that security, you actually do a lot of security audits and security stuff for the health sector. How did you manage to make them trust you? I mean, and work with you, and not say we have security people of our own, because that's what I hear a lot.
Yes, thank you, Martin. Well, first of all, I would say that it's a long relationship that started with the clinical hospitals in Poznań, because we gave them the connectivity. And in our policy, when we give to institution the connectivity, we also give a portfolio of services on top of it. So not only the link, but some other services, including security audits. And because in Poznań, the whole university and research community is very often working together, and a lot of people coming and working at PSNC, also coming from the technical university, work as IT people in the hospitals, we had somehow an easier access. So we started to talk to them and provided them the services of security audits, the security of the network, and so on. So maybe it's a bit different situation than the one described before about the people of the IT departments of the hospitals coming from the commercial. In it was starting with our colleagues, and as the services of our security department were growing, it spread also to other cities. So through the whole community of the metropolitan area networks, we can provide the services to hospitals in all of the country. So I guess it was a little bit bottom-up trust building.
Okay, that's yeah. Maybe some of us could learn from that, but it seems like a long-term thing. Speaking about services, I would like to hear from Luis Messina. One thing I didn't quite catch was, besides the network and apparently some video conferencing, what other services do they use the telehealth network for?
Well, the start of the RUTI network was a good background for the universities to start working and having their telemedicine units. We sort of did it in a way that all these units are recognized in their university or teaching hospitals, and some of them started doing teleconsultations. You know, they searched for other projects and investments, and they run besides the 13 or 14 health units from the national telehealth program. They had to be in charge of at least 100 municipalities in each one of these 14 states. So this went on and on. So,
but yeah, okay, but what I'm trying to ask is, what kind of, I mean, that's network connectivity. So they're just using it for everything they do on the network. You don't provide a special service like data management services or tailored telemedicine services provided by you or something.
well, unfortunately, and as I also can see from the NRENs in general, there are not yet, as I put here, special health services catalog, and so no, not yet. We have some working groups in our NREN where software is developed. For example, we don't use Zoom or whatever. We use mConf because it was developed by university groups, and this is running very well. We went before the pandemic with 700 simultaneous web rooms, and then went up to 15,000. And so this was a big step. But regarding specific health priorities, it's not very developed as we want. So we are still struggling with that. This is one of the main objectives why I'm also here to discuss with you and see what else can we do together.
Okay, thank you. Speaking about trust, I'd like to hear from Alexander Gobolev. You have described this very nice DICOM network where you exchange pictures and so on. But I have two questions. Are you also providing part of that? Someone's mic is on. Are you also providing as part of that the network connectivity, or are they just using plain internet to access your services? That's one question. And the other one is, do you have an access federation that they are using, or do you just hand out logins the old-fashioned way?
So for first question, I need to understand some details. What do you mean? Do we provide another connectivity except internet? So, so each institution has a local network. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So it works in local network for sure. NREN provides internet connectivity for the hospitals. Okay. Our area. Yes. Oh, if it's the answer, yes, yeah. Yes. And great. For example, one of the topic of my presentation was fast connectivity to the internet, to the additional resources of internet provided by NREN. And our NREN, really what we did, we was able to enlarge the band, make it more larger to make able to exchange the images. Yes, it is. Yes. As for second question, I will say that technically we implemented it, but unfortunately hospitals have to make next step to allow to integrate their domain controllers or their user database with the federated identity, as they didn't. So we make presentations, we show how it works. We also put on the login screen, we also put a button, use federated identity, and we show how it works in test, but unfortunately, no one doctor use it. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so it's, and we're working on this, but unfortunately we need some more support. So you see, possibly if there will be some issues with security, then they will just start using it. For now, they don't. And again, as I said, the system is connected to is linked with the hospital information system, and most of the doctors use it inside hospital information system, but not outside.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah. And last but not least, I'd like to ask Malcolm from GISC. Tell me, you have the same problems as I also outlined, that in our countries at least, they are health services are very reluctant to just exchange their commercial networking from with NREN provided network infrastructure. As we can hear, that's not the case in all countries, but in your country, do you see it happening ever? What's your projection on that?
Yeah, well, it's been very prescribed up to now what network the health service was on, so they didn't really have an option. So they had to have the NHS-related network. Many of them also did have commercial internet as well, because one of the problems with the national solutions was the internet connectivity was very poor. So there were some opportunities around that. But with the move to internet first, I really do see there is an opportunity for NRENs. I don't think actually the problem has been a reluctance from the NHS. We do have NRENs with a GISC, does have a recognition problem. So it wouldn't be necessarily the first place you go to. But on the other hand, the GÉANT network, which is our network, is something that is well recognized. But also it does have those security concerns, as mentioned. People have preconceived ideas about what that means. So I do think we are getting NHS organisations actually coming to us a little bit to say, now we're gradually being allowed to go out to the wider sectors. What can you do for us? So I suspect it might be more of a gradual move from individual health organisations over time.
Okay.
If we,
yeah, I hope something similar could happen in our country too, but that's a long way, I think. Okay, so with that, we have actually, if we end now at least this debate session, we will be on time. So that's what I propose, Leonie.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Good timing. Great. We cashed up. So we break now for lunch and reconvene at 20 minutes to 2, 1:40. And I think Neringa will start the clock. And there's a question. Yeah, do not leave the Zoom room, please, because we will distribute people to breakout sessions. So it's requested that you stay. Okay. Have a nice lunch and see you back here in 40 minutes.
See you in a bit.
Thank you, Martin.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. See that people are showing up after the lunch break. And since time is running quickly, today is a crowded day, let's get started. So this session is about Mentimeter. So we will start with a few questions that we'll actually share together. We'll go through together to our Mentimeter. So I remind you the code is 9304159, 9304159. Yeah, I think I've seen that Laura started sharing the screen. So let's warm up with this second session of Mentimeter, where we try to tackle other more specific issues. So the first question is about, is your eHealth community requesting greater dedicated bandwidth, higher dedicated bandwidth? So did you experience as NREN that institutions, eHealth institutions, research hospital are requesting more bandwidth in general? This is a like network requirement, basic one that we would like to assess and get information about. So I would leave some time for this, for you to answer. I think it's like a basic question, so shouldn't take too long to provide your yes, no, or don't know answer. But let's leave it there for a little while and see. Basically, I see that so far there is like an even distribution almost about yes, no, and don't know. And we will, of course, get back to this during our discussions in the breakout rooms. So far 17 people voted. I would actually, yeah, probably move to the next question, Laura. If, okay, so do your eHealth institution need NREN provided identity providers? This is a specific question that we wanted to target, let's say, focusing on this specific component, just to understand. We've seen that we know that some NREN do provide the service. Today we've seen GAR, but SESNet, Renater, and others are doing similar things, basically providing identity providers to eHealth institutions. We know that one of the concern is about sometimes lack of skills or lack of staff to deal with a bit demanding installation or configuration procedures for identity providers. So I see that answers are coming. Basically, I think when we reach a similar number of answer than the previous question, we might. Let's see if they still show up. No, if not, let's move to the next slide. There's a okay. So this question is whether the interconnected sites are using or let's say are happy with using a level 2 VPN service to tackle their security needs. So basically, it's to get your experience as an NREN, both for you as a provider, but also for the institutions as customers, whether they are happy with a service like L2 VPN to be interconnected and at the same time making use of a secure connection and a secure solution. Okay, there's a lot of don't knows, mostly yes and no. Let's move to the next question, Laura. Thank you. So this is a general question we thought about asking about clouds in general. So overall, what's your experience so far? How relevant are clouds in the context of eHealth specifically? So let's say, how much do we have to imagine a legacy scenario where basically clouds weren't there, and how much clouds are now into the, let's say, ordinary requirements of eHealth institutions? And I see that medium or high relevance are really top scores here. Basically, I would say high relevance mostly. Good. Okay. So the next question. So here, this is an open-ended question. You can enter multiple answers. So Mentimeter has been configured to allow you to provide more than one input. According to you, what elements are most important about policy? So which elements are in need in this structured scenario of eHealth and e-infrastructures, clouds, and networks? What elements should be governed through, should be addressed by new policies, right? So basically, what should policy be dealing with in this developing context of eHealth? So I see that most answers are now dealing with data access policies, which is totally important. I think, yeah, to provide user-centric services, but preserving privacy of users, and I would say that there is a tremendous request for data access policies, but also, yeah, user management and access, infrastructure, semantic interoperability, anonymization, fair data. So fair is also coming a lot. Well, basically, there is really a request for policy around accessing data, eHealth data, as expected, I would say. Data management and data access policies are the most hit topics here. Fair data, trusted research environments, that's important. Security, privacy, data openness, semantic interoperability was seen. Okay, I would say that uniform strategy for eHealth services in Europe. This is a clear, strong statement. It's a clear request, and it came out really loud and clear. Data protection and security from the use by governments for political aims. Well, that is also ontologies, data security. Okay. Well, standards is also coming a lot. So, I mean, policymakers have a hard time, have a lot of things to deal with around eHealth, right? Because indeed, there is a lot to be handled carefully around eHealth. So, security of personal information, trusted research environments. Okay, uniform. Laura, I think we can move to the next slide. Thank you so much for your answers. I think there will be a valuable input for the breakout discussions. So this is like a very straightforward question to you, in your experience, while dealing with eHealth customers, eHealth institutions, eHealth projects, is there anything immediately striking because it's not there, it's not missing? It's let's say, specific that you encountered first specifically around eHealth? So what are the issues in general? So, well, I mean, we heard some of those issues this morning, right? Like the specific fact that research hospitals sometimes lack of skilled people, or they're understaffed, but also in general around the eHealth project. I mean, the example that we throw there is that are the AUP, the current NREN AUP, enough for our, let's say, research hospitals, for example, more careful or more worried about the way the NRENs, which is normally a general purpose research provider, is dealing with interconnecting, but of course, transporting personal information on the network. So this was to, let's say, stimulate a discussion on what were the requests that you got from eHealth projects and eHealth institutions as an NREN. And I see that, I mean, some answers are coming, maybe others will show up during the discussion, but hospitals don't see or don't want to see their security issues. That's very clear and very, let's say, provoking as a remark. That anonymization and continuing recording cases in the same time for search purposes. Most NREN haven't probably planned activities regarding strategy towards specific disciplines outside traditional HPC education domain. So it's sort of a new topic sometimes for NRENs. Health organization mandated to be served by a different organization, problematical if the medical education and research. Digital health coordination in each NREN. NREN cannot support commercial traffic, so two providers are needed serving eHealth. So this is, I see that some of the issues are also related to policies, but some other issues here are technical, some are, I would say, sociological, strategic, but related to the particular, let's say, the particular environment and I would say human environment as well around eHealth. So I need to talk at minister level to deal, so maybe best practices around how to deal with governments could be something NREN could share in our community context. NREN cannot support, yeah, that's a point. It is more attractive for young specs to work for Google rather than EU health project. This is something which sometimes come up in our community. Yeah, indeed, sometimes we lack of attraction for young skill staff, and that applies to eHealth as well sometimes. So MOU among GÉANT and NRENs. Sorry, I lost that one. Okay, well, see that many different topics and many different domains are coming up. So there are technical matters, there are how to talk to governments about eHealth, and some issues are related to policies. This you're mentioning this again here. So memorandum of understanding among GÉANT, Red Clara, Avan and NRENs for representation at World Health Organization. Good point. So again, strategy and policy it's coming up. Hospital have, sorry, lost that one. Okay, data anonymization and continuing, that's, we've seen that. Serving eHealth for NREN is an issue of governance, hospitals under different ministry. So again, having to deal with the, let's say, governmental side of the issue for us as NREN is might be an issue. Well, I mean, I think that, I mean, we can probably stop here, but thank you very much for providing all this input, and I'm sure we'll discuss this later on. So I have to keep an eye on timing as well, because we need to start at some point. So which area is most important for eHealth? So, well, this is like, I know it's a bit of a naive question, but you can provide, you're allowed to provide a naive answer if you want, in the sense that, okay, out of your immediate impression, of your experience, what area is more involved in having to deal with eHealth? So where should be speed up? Where should be speeding up and gaining momentum? Also in which domain we should serve the eHealth community more, and the message that you're giving so far seems clear to me. So security and trust and identity are massively hit domains, but also policy, I would say, and networks a bit less of an issue here, and clouds as well. So basically, I would say that so far we have 15 answers, but we can wait a few seconds more. But here, security, policy, and trust and identity are, let's say, the top scores, undeniably. Now it's, yeah, so, okay, Laura, I think we could move to the next slide. Okay, this is another very straightforward question, but I think it's very tuned for this event today. What could we work on together? So, right, we are organizing this event to assess the situation and try to understand where we could, let's say, get synergies, right, by collaborating, by sharing our experiences. So should we work together to share, let's say, AI solutions, or to discuss how and share best practices around AI? Should we do it around policies? Should we sit together and assess our EUP and see what is eHealth asking for, and how could we tackle this together? Or are there any other, let's say, are there any other areas where you think we should try and exploit as much synergy as we can? So here I see that so far 11 have answered, and TF Task Force eHealth is an answer. So coordinated language approach to understand them, coordinated approach and dialogue with the EC. Oh, that's something I forgot to mention. Thank you for putting that. Yeah, how to keep up with the policies, but also to keep up with the funding models, and how to support our institutions to profit from what the Europe is making available around eHealth. So yeah, again, opportunities to talk today. Share IUP for eHealth, merging the data resources, trainings and webinar to clarify eHealth priorities for NRENs. I think, again, there is the word coordination is coming up, and collaboration is coming up a lot, of course, but and I would say it's really like an open field for options to collaborate. So there's a lot of domains that you're mentioning, and specific topics we could collaborate. So I would say that more or less everything that was mentioned as a relevant topic for eHealth is coming up here as an option to work together on, right? So find the right champions to talk to them, global webinar to clarify eHealth priorities for NRENs. Yeah, so I think we got 23 answers, and then this number is not growing. So I think we can move to the next slide. Thank you. Thank you very much. So right in time, I think we slightly late. So now we will be distributed to the breakout rooms. So Magda is actually doing this. You will be notified when the breakout rooms will be closed in the end. So we will have now 30 minutes to discuss in separate rooms. So happy journey. Yeah, please go ahead.
Happy journey. Have a nice trip. I will put you in the rooms, and 2 minutes before we end, you will receive a notification. And if you guys end before, just feel free to join to the living room. But let's make the most of it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, well, maybe we can start if the first team is ready. Please go ahead and use your 2-3 minutes to report about the main points.
Yeah, that was breakout group 1. It was me as a moderator and Naira as rapporteur. I pass on to Naira, please, for report back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will try to pop up the issues which we could touch upon during this short time. So, okay, I will talk what we have been talking. We have members from different NRENs, from experienced ones and from those who are just starting to enter this, to have these new services concerning eHealth. So that was why we had different opinions and different views on the things. So those who are new, who want to provide these eHealth services, they mainly face issues like the strategies and policies having on place rather than the infrastructure. They are more ready to with the infrastructure, and they need some good policies to start, because they see medical staff difficult to approach. There are the main specific difficulties to handle, like the medical institutions mainly don't prefer to have their data outside of their premises. They are, in many cases, they have trusted locally already processing trusted identity, so they're internal ones, and many NRENs mostly support them only with the infrastructure. And about the cooperation with GÉANT and other NRENs. In this case, those who start are very interested because they need support from their peers and policy strategies. And on the other hand, GAR, for example, GAR, who is already providing these services, sees itself in the lead, and GÉANT and other NRENs to follow. On the other note, we had also opinion that these topics will be getting more and more important for the upcoming years, for security and trusted identity eHealth data.
Thank you very much, Nair. Thank you. Marina and Olga.
Olga will report back. Yeah, she's ready.
Yes, we selected 2 topics regarding policies. We have a very clear message. Then it's important to highlight the collaboration across Europe and for sure to coordinate efforts and policies. And regarding clouds, the current experience, for instance, from Brazil is that it's on early stage, and around 1/4 of institution connected. Maybe they are they have awareness, but do not bring into NRENs, so let's need more work on that. And regarding work on cloud in GAR, as Maura said, it's important that commercial clouds do not fulfill their researchers' needs, that practitioners who are researchers and they are starting working and to gather requirements and to an encompassing catalog like box, file sender, and the main issues here we highlight that privacy and security are most important. That's all from me.
Thank you, Olga. I'll report about the breakout room 3. It was me and Yeva there, and of course there were different brands. So basically, about the connectivity, most of our institutions are getting IP service, no specific very advanced services. That was the general remark. Basically, a good internet connection. That is what most of these institutions are getting. On the other side, there was the remark that trust between institutions is important, even around networking, in the sense that people know each other in some countries, in some NRENs, and this contributes to the trust, let's say, between institutions. So that adds up, of course, to the human touch, human protocol on top of the security protocols, let's say. Right. So then about trust and identity, I'd like to say that there were remarks about the fact that edge computing, for example, and there are domains that are not really touched currently, that are new to the community, and for which AI should be reconsidered probably, and not even we don't really have a clear understanding of how to structure AI around these edge services. Also, some remarks about that to provide a cloud IDP, it's a good idea in principle, but sometimes you need a critical mass of users, and this is not always the case. So some brands are struggling with that, in the sense that they like the idea, they welcome the idea of working on an issue like that, but they're not. They don't see a critical mass to make this, because it's an investment, of course, for an NREN. Additional comments were about policies, and there again, data access policies are key, and there's a lot of desire in our team, in our breakout rooms as well, to collaborate around policies and acceptable user policies to be fine-tuned for eHealth. So room for collaboration around policies was underlined. Yeah, I think I mentioned everything I wanted to report now. So the floor to the next team.
So I think that's me, team 4. So we didn't really get to the policy question or have much to say about clouds, but regarding security, there were 2 fairly concrete points. One is that, as a sort of summary, security has really been something that NRENs have been dealing with at their own level up until now, but it's important to try and raise this to a higher level, like government level, for example. And then the other is that there is a GÉANT project document on security baseline that provides a good starting point for any organization to be able to follow. And a link to that has been put into the chat that I saw. There has also been a link to SURFnet, the Dutch NREN's security information there as well. So I think that's a very brief summary of what was said in that on that question. Regarding trust and identity, there was an interesting point made that if regarding EduGAIN, the key to getting hospitals to use EduGAIN is to first make sure that the universities are using it, because if they are teaching hospitals, for example, they're naturally going to follow on after the universities are connected. So that's a good approach perhaps to bear in mind. And then there was another point that in some countries, at least, for example, this was in Croatia, there are other systems in place In that case, the Ministry of Health has a security system using smart card for the medical sector. So it has different level of security than Edugain. So those are things that may need to be taken into account on a country by country basis as well. Question about the networks, the quick answer was that for the countries that we were looking at, which was Poland, Croatia, Russia, Netherlands, Belarus, the answers were that the services being provided at IP or level 2 services. And I think that was all of my answers.
I can't seem to find the link to the SurfNet thing you mentioned in the chat.
It's from Vlado Pribolsan, and I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, at 2:23 p.m. GÉANT security baseline.
Okay, maybe it was posted in the chat of the breakout room then.
Yeah, likely.
I'm seeing it all in one chat stream personally,
Okay,
but
good.
Yeah,
good for you.
Oh, no,
okay. But we can make sure it's in the. I've put it into the Google Doc as well.
Yeah, remember to save all the chats because they have very good information there.
Okay.
It'll be in the notes.
Thanks, Laura. The next breakout room. So we are in number 5. Annabelle, Tamara.
I think we are the last room because we skipped that one.
Neringa should present now.
Yes, so it's the last room. It's Daniel and myself, and we also had 4 strong NRENs in the room. GAR, PSNC, Martin, and also BASNet. So we had many good cases to discuss. And the longest discussion was on the network issue. So we decided that there are diverse connections as well as mixture of free of charge and paid services. It depends on the funding level. In the payment perspective, this followed to the general approach of NREN to their users. So hospitals don't get special status there if it's free of charge for other users. So it's free of charge for hospitals. And there are services provided even there is no physical connection. This means that not only connectivity, but services can be provided separately. In many cases, connectivity and extra services provided to hospitals doing research. So basically, this is it from network question. We did not discuss trust and identity question. We skipped that and left the.
Well, we did discuss it, but we said that it's one of the services, so it was included. Yes.
Yeah. And the third, security. Security was also very briefly discussed. More discussions. Well, regarding security, I have only one remark that if any additional services are provided, except those, if the organization is connected to the backbone, they get all the standard services, and the additional extra service is security audits provided by the NREN. And I found one common thing when we discussed clouds and the policy thing. Quite a few people mentioned that clients do not come to the NREN, they go to the commercial provider first. So we found visibility and branding issues that the NRENs really lack of it. Way of solving this issue could be collaboration with the commercial providers in terms of clouds.
And also collaboration with the vendors which serve the hospitals. With PSNC provided as a very good example. They talk to Olympus, Mitsubishi, and so on. And so these companies tell the hospital, why don't you use the NREN? So.
And I wanted to comment that actually we have this collaboration going on in the big frameworks like OCRA 2020 IAS framework and the 2016 still going on. The call-offs are still valid for 4 next years, except Azure. So we have a lot of collaboration with the commercial providers, both offering the services, but also in trainings nationally as well, not only internationally, for institutions and NRENs both.
Yeah, but we should go beyond, because the point which PSNC made, like the champion might be a doctor, as Dr. Shimizu said this morning, but the champion might be one of your hardware supplier as well.
Yes. The representatives of doctors are actually the key, because they are the authority for the other doctors.
Exactly, they trust only themselves, not us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ringa. I think we are reaching now the closure of this event, I would say. Personally, just have a short closing message, which is thanks everyone for having attended today. I hope it has been useful for all of us actually to share this first impression of what NRENs think could be done around the health.